Whew. Oh man, could you tell the truth, nothing but the truth, and all its beauty and its ugliness all the time to another person, and to yourself even? Or is it better to be kind and let others, including yourself, go on living in your bubble of delusion? That's the question we're going to be tackling on the podcast this week, which I'm on my way into town to meet my co-host Sarah, and we're going to have that discussion. Cool. I'm looking forward to that. Like I say, really, I think it's scary. It's a frightening thing to think about, being able to say whatever exactly on your mind without filter. So being truthful and saying what is on your mind. That's a scary thought. What are you doing over there?
Taking notes.
Taking notes for?
For the podcast from this article.
What are we talking about today anyway?
We're talking about whether it's better to be kind or truthful. And I started thinking about this because this is a dilemma for me constantly.
All right.
You think something, but then you know it's not very nice to say it. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling this guy who's involved in the radical honesty movement. Did you read that article?
Yeah.
I kind of think he's a bit of an asshole.
Do you think? I don't know. I think it scared me to think about telling, to just completely tell the truth, whatever's in your head, as opposed to running it through a filter that says, should I say it?
I think my filter's there for a good reason.
Yeah.
Because also, not everything that pops into your head is truth, is it?
Yeah.
I don't think everybody, it's like not everyone is, what's the phrase, kind of deserving of your opinion.
I was going to say, yeah. So I guess there's that question of when we say truth, as in, or are we talking factually true, or are we just talking about truth itself?
The movement, this article's entitled, I Think You're Fat.
Right.
What?
So the truth in that is that he thinks that person's fat, not that the person necessarily is fat.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And much along that line.
Yes.
Anyway, it's interesting.
All right, watch the podcast listen to the podcast and find out where this conversation goes. Okay, that was interesting. Having that discussion about the question we were asking was, is it better to be true or to be kind? Oh, whoa, it's dark here. That's the thing with this winter. Winter is getting dark. It's getting dark. I'm going to have to bring a torch out here. I'm dressed in a wooded kind of bed. I have to bring a torch because it's starting to get dark. Let's go out into the field so I got some light. All right, that's a little bit better now. So yes, and I said that question scared me in the sense that if I think about the book, let me back up a minute. So the book that we were addressing, and it was an article that went along with this as well, is a book called Radical Honesty, and the guy's name is Brad. Let me just check. Brad Blanton is the guy's name. The book is Radical Honesty. And essentially, partly what the book is about is that in order to get to an authentic relationship with someone, you have to be radically honest. And that not just in a romantic relationship, but any personal, relationships that you have with people in general, to have a real authentic communications, is that we have to start being honest and speaking our minds, what's really on our minds, as opposed to what the tendencies we have, of course, is to apply a filter to everything that we say. So I'm sure you could think of some conversations you had today. I'm sure you can think there were things that you probably wanted to say, but you didn't say it, or you put a filter on it so it didn't come out how you really had it in your head. And so, was it really an authentic communication with that person? Now, I know we do this, hence why we were asking the question about being kind. We sometimes do this to protect someone else's feelings, but I think we also do it because we want to protect ourselves. We want to protect our own feelings. You know, we're afraid of the reaction that we might get from that person. We're afraid that we maybe might be rejected. And so we filter our communications with that individual and maybe not really have an authentic interaction with them. Now, me and Sarah we kind of were in and we were kind of out. I've seen it personally from a coaching point of view, especially when I'm working with companies and teams, and in a room with me, one of the team members will say, I'm having a problem with this person, they do this, that, and the other thing, and if only they would change this. And I asked the question, have you actually told them in the exact same way that you just told me? Have you had that conversation with them? And 9 times out of 10, they haven't had a direct conversation about the issue. They filtered it, they hinted at it, they hoped that the other party would, either just know or would guess based off of the hints and the insinuations and the, dropping all the different clues, but they haven't actually come out and said, point blank, this is what the problem is. And that could be several reasons for that, especially if you're inside a corporate, maybe it might be, it's your boss, and you're thinking, well, if I say this thing truthfully, will it come back to haunt me when it's time for, appraisals or raises, that sort of thing. So, it's a survival mode, isn't it? It's like, do I feel safe disclosing my true thoughts to this person? I think that's what a lot of it comes down to. How safe do I feel expressing myself truly without the filters, taking the filters off? So I think in this conversation, that's meant to be a sort of a two-way thing, both parties, or however many parties are in it, both people in communications with each other have their filters on. And sometimes I think that does hinder having an authentic conversation with a person. And I'm not a big fan of the word authentic. It's just something that doesn't sit right with me with that word. But it's a word that we have. So, are there instances where, it's better to be kind to a person? And I think for me it would be, well, ask yourself, are you filtering your conversation because of your own fear, as in you fear how they're going to react, you don't know how they want to react, or you don't want to deal with how that person might react, and so you opt for it's better to say nothing. But you can imagine, and I'm sure, we've all been there, we've all experienced it, you might ignore, especially if you're, if it's not, somebody that you're going to see, that you see daily, that you're, that's a part of your life, be it work or personal, you ignore these things, too many of these things you ignore, and for too long, they start to build up, and other problems will come out of that. So, do you, and someone said to me, they said, well, if you say it in the right way, whatever that is, then, you know, it's better. Oh, there we go. I had the zoomed in on me. So, is it? I think there was one other point I wanted to make on that, and for me personally, I guess I have a criteria that says, how much do I value this relationship? So what I mean by that is, if there's, if it's a relationship that's, I'm just two ships passing, and I'm not really invested in the relationship, then you know what? Is it worth the energy that may be expended based having this authentic conversation, depending on how it lands? For relationships that are important to me, having an unfiltered conversation is a better thing. But saying that, I think it's a lot of fear, isn't it? A lot of it's the fear how, no matter how close the person is to you, the fear is, how would this person receive what I'm saying? What's their reaction going to be to what I have to say? What are they going to think about me if I say exactly what's on my mind? And I'm sure you can think of the different populations of people that you have, close friends, spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, and you probably show a different version of yourself with each individual that you know. So there's probably some people, you probably have a really, really best friend in the world that you can say anything to, because you feel safe, that they won't judge you, that they're not going to hate you, that they're going to stop being your friend, or going to stop loving you, or whatever. And you just say whatever, speak to them whatever. There's no filters. And that's rare. But I'm sure, well, hopefully, you've got someone with whom you can have just like absolutely no filter on as you're speaking to them. And if you think through all your relationships, it's going to come down to, how safe do I feel with disclosing my thoughts unfiltered to this person? And maybe that's the heart of what the book was trying to get at in relationship to radical honesty. Not a sense of, I'm just going to speak my truth, as you'll hear people say, regardless of how it lands, because it's my truth. I think it's always about context. Everything. It's about the context, isn't it? It's context and what you're saying. But if it's a really important relationship to you, and you find yourself adding lots of filters, then perhaps you need to have conversations about your communicating, because you'll be holding back because of a fear that you're not sure how that other person's going to react. So perhaps the place to start would be having the conversation about your communications, and is it safe to speak my mind with you? So the podcast will be out on Monday, the Havana Cafe Sessions podcast. Check that out. Some good stuff came out in that discussion. All right, it's getting dark, and I need to get back to the office and finish my work.